The dining room shimmered under soft golden lights, laughter rising and falling like music. Plates clinked, glasses touched, and the aroma of roasted chicken and garlic bread filled the air. I sat at the long wooden table surrounded by friends, faces I had known for years, people who had celebrated birthdays and anniversaries with us. At the head of the table sat my wife, Rachel, her wineglass poised elegantly between her fingers. She looked radiant that night, her dark hair catching the light, her smile perfectly practiced. To anyone else, she might have looked like the picture of grace. To me, she was home, or at least she had been. I lifted my fork, ready to take another bite, when her voice cut across the chatter. At least Daniel knew how to make me feel alive. The words landed like a bomb. My hand froze mid-air, fork trembling, food forgotten. Around us, the laughter died in an instant. You could hear the clock ticking on the far wall, the faint hum of the chandelier above. Conversation stopped. Eyes darted between us, nervous, searching for some clue that they had misheard, but they hadn't. She had said it. Daniel. Her ex. A name I hadn't spoken in years. A ghost I thought we had buried. And here she was, resurrecting him in front of everyone. I felt heat rising in my chest, a mixture of humiliation and disbelief. My throat tightened, as though the air itself had turned against me. For a moment I couldn't breathe. I forced a smile, thin, fragile, the kind you wear when you're trying not to collapse in front of a crowd. "Strange way to bring up old flames, Rachel," I said, my voice steady but empty, like an actor reciting lines. She didn't even flinch. She just sipped her wine, slowly, her lips pursed, her eyes avoiding mine as if nothing had happened. Our friends shifted uncomfortably. One coughed. Another pretended to focus on his plate. But the damage was already done. The room had shifted. The warmth and laughter were gone, replaced by tension so thick it was suffocating. I sat there, staring at the woman who had just compared me to the man who came before me. My wife, my partner, the person I thought I knew better than anyone else, and in that moment, surrounded by people yet utterly alone, I realized something. This wasn't just a careless comment. It was a glimpse into a truth I wasn't ready to face. The dinner went on. Small talk resumed, but it was hollow, fragile. And inside me, something had already cracked wide open. Rachel's words at the dinner table didn't just vanish when the night ended. They lingered, echoing in my head like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. I lay awake long after our guests had left, staring at the ceiling while the shadows shifted across the room. But the truth was, this wasn't the first time I had felt something was wrong. The signs had been there, quiet and subtle like whispers in the dark. I had just refused to listen. I remembered the night she stayed up late, curled on the couch with her phone glowing against her face. She'd smiled faintly, the kind of smile that wasn't meant for me. And when I'd ask, "Who's that?" she'd reply quickly, "Just work emails." But her eyes, those eyes I used to read like a book, darted away from mine, as though afraid I'd see too much. Then there were the hugs. They used to feel warm, easy, natural. But lately, when I'd pull her close, her body would stiffen, her arms barely tightening around me. Her laughter had lost its music. It sounded forced, like a joke she didn't actually find funny. And still I told myself stories. She's tired. She's stressed. The new job is taking its toll. I wanted to believe those lies because the alternative was unthinkable, but deep down, my gut knew. Every instinct inside me screamed that she was slipping away. At family gatherings, she seemed distracted, scrolling her phone under the table, eyes lighting up for someone I couldn't see. At night, she'd roll to her side, away from me, her breathing steady, but her distance louder than any argument. I started noticing the small things, the way she avoided saying, "I love you," back sometimes, as if the words stuck in her throat. The way her perfume lingered stronger than usual, as if she'd freshened up for someone else before coming home. And then there were her moods. Some days she was distant, cold, unreachable. Other days she was overly sweet, as though covering up a secret with exaggerated affection. It was like living with two different women, one I recognized and one I didn't. The dinner table humiliation wasn't an accident. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was the truth seeping through the cracks, truth she could no longer keep hidden. And as much as I wanted to pretend it was nothing, as much as I wanted to believe the woman I married was still mine, deep inside, I knew this was the beginning of an unraveling I wasn't prepared for. Her words haunted me, not just because of what she said, but because they confirmed what I had been too afraid to admit all along. I was no longer enough for her, and maybe I never had been. The clinking of plates was the only sound filling the house after the guests left. The laughter and chatter that had once filled the dining room were gone, replaced by a silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. I found Rachel in the kitchen, her back to me, sleeves rolled up as she rinsed the dishes under the faucet. The water hissed loudly, splashing against porcelain, but her movements were mechanical, like she was washing not just the plates, but the memory of what she'd said at the table. I leaned against the doorway, my hands trembling. "What was that about?" I asked, my voice low, though it carried the weight of a storm. She froze for half a second, then kept scrubbing. "It was nothing, Aaron. Don't make it bigger than it is." "Nothing?" I stepped forward, the tiles cold beneath my feet. "Rachel, you compared me to your ex. In front of everyone? That's not nothing." Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't turn. "You're overreacting." The words cut deeper than a scream. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm even as my chest burned. "Overreacting? You humiliated me tonight. Tell me the truth, Rachel. Is there something I should know?" This time she shut off the faucet. The kitchen fell silent, except for the soft dripping of water from her hands. Slowly, she reached for a towel, drying them one by one, her movements deliberate, careful, as if buying herself time. When she finally turned around, her eyes avoided mine. "You're paranoid," she whispered. But her voice wavered, trembling like glass about to shatter. I searched her face, desperate for some sign, an explanation, an apology, anything that could stitch the wound she had opened. But what I found instead was silence, a silence that screamed louder than any confession. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But doubt had already taken root, burrowing deep, twisting every thought. That night, standing in our kitchen, surrounded by the smell of soap and wine, I realized something terrifying. Sometimes silence is the answer you've been dreading all along, and Rachel's silence told me everything I needed to know. The house was quiet, but inside me there was no peace. I lay on my side of the bed, staring at the ceiling, while Rachel slept soundly just a few feet away. The rhythm of her breathing should have been comforting. But tonight it felt foreign, like listening to a stranger. The scent of her lavender perfume lingered in the air, usually my favorite, but now it was suffocating. Every inhale made me feel like I was drowning in a memory that didn't belong to me anymore. I turned onto my back, my eyes tracing the shadows crawling across the ceiling. Sleep never came. My thoughts kept circling back to her words at dinner, her silence in the kitchen, the hollow look in her eyes. My chest tightened with the same question again and again. Was she still in love with him? At 2:57 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally I would have ignored it, but something, instinct, fate, I don't know, made me pick it up. The screen lit up with a notification. Rachel's email. I froze. Months ago, she had accidentally synced her email to my device. Neither of us had thought much of it at the time. Until now, my hands trembled as I opened it. A new message. From him, Daniel. The subject line was empty. The message was short. 3 words. "I miss you." My heart stopped. I sat up, the glow of the phone burning against my face in the darkness. My thumb scrolled down, almost against my will. And then I saw them. Not one message. Not 2, dozens. Late-night conversations stretching back months. Confessions whispered through screens. "I can't stop thinking about you. You make me feel alive again. When can we meet?" Each line was a blade slicing me open. My chest ached as though someone had reached inside and twisted my heart. The woman lying beside me wasn't the Rachel I had married. She wasn't the woman I had built a life with. She was a stranger who had been slipping away piece by piece, while I stood blind in my own home. I set the phone down, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. My mind screamed, "This can't be real. This can't be happening." But the proof was right there, undeniable, merciless. By 4 a.m. I hadn't moved. I just sat in the living room, staring into nothing, the phone heavy in my lap. The walls around me felt colder, emptier. The life we had built together, the dinners, the laughter, the promises, suddenly felt like props on a stage, meaningless against the truth. I thought of all the times I had trusted her, defended her, convinced myself I was imagining things. I thought of the way she had compared me to him so carelessly, as if he had never really left her heart. And for the first time in years, I realized the depth of the betrayal wasn't just in the cheating. It was in the pretending, the lies woven into the fabric of our everyday life. Some betrayals scream, others whisper. Rachel's had done both, and tonight the whispers were louder than ever. The morning light crept through the curtains, pale and heavy, as though even the sun knew something was broken. I hadn't slept at all. My eyes burned, but my chest was colder than ice. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching Rachel move about as if nothing had happened. She hummed softly while pouring coffee, her robe tied loosely around her waist, hair tucked behind her ear. To anyone else, it would have looked like the start of a normal day, but nothing about this day was normal. I cleared my throat, my voice flat, steady, in a way that surprised even me. I saw the emails. The mug slipped from her hand before the words even finished leaving my lips. It hit the tile with a sharp crack, shattering into a dozen pieces. Coffee splashed across the floor, dark stains spreading like the truth itself. She froze, eyes wide, lips parting, but no words coming out. "Don't," I said quickly, holding up a hand. "Don't bother explaining." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "Erin, I cut her off, my voice sharp this time. Please don't insult me further." Her chin trembled. "I made a mistake. I love you. It didn't mean anything." I let out a bitter laugh, hollow and sharp. "A mistake?" I shook my head. "Forgetting to lock the front door is a mistake. Leaving the oven on is a mistake. But months of lies? Sneaking behind my back, comparing me to him in front of everyone?" I met her gaze, my voice breaking. "That's not a mistake, Rachel. That's a choice," she sobbed, covering her face with her hands. "I never stopped loving you. I was just confused. Please believe me." The sight of her tears once would have shattered me, but now they felt like too little, too late. I stepped closer, my chest heavy but my resolve firm. "You compared me to him because he never left your heart. And now I know the truth. I can't fight for someone who's already gone." Her hands dropped slowly, her eyes pleading, desperate. But I was already gone, even as I stood right in front of her. The air between us was thick, heavy with everything left unsaid. Rachel stood there, tears carving silent paths down her face, her hands trembling as if reaching for a life that was already slipping away. I could have shouted. I could have demanded answers, explanations, apologies. But in that moment, something inside me shifted. The fire of anger faded, replaced by a quiet clarity. For so long, I had held on to the idea of us, the memories, the laughter, the promises. But what good were memories when the present was built on lies? I straightened my shoulders, the weight on my chest easing with every breath. "I can't stay in a place where love has already died," I said softly. My voice didn't shake this time. It carried finality, strength. She sobbed harder, whispering my name. But I didn't move. I walked past the dining room where she had first humiliated me, past the living room where we once laughed until midnight. At the door I paused, not to look back but to take one last breath as a free man, and then I stepped outside, closing the door on her, and on the life we once had. If you've ever faced betrayal, remember this: your worth is never measured by someone else's lies. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's the strongest choice you can make. Share this story with someone who needs courage today and tell me in the comments, what would you have done?